Snack-sized business.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Snack-sized Business. I'm LB Adams, your host, and it is my mission to help amplify the voices and the doings of women entrepreneurs, women in business, women who drive industry. And so today it is my great pleasure to introduce you to Bobette Fisher. I've known Bobette for several years and her light shines brightly here in the Charleston area. So let me tell you her 5 facts. 5 facts about Bobette. So first, we get to talk about her name. Her parents apparently were hoping for a Bob Jr., but when that didn't happen, her mom was still determined to name her after her dad, but didn't like Roberta, so she took Bob and added it to part of her middle, Jeanette, that was from her aunt, and thus came up with Bobette. Sounds like it's French, but there you go. You don't meet too many Bobettes, that's for sure. Her dad nicknamed her Bebop from the jazz music genre, mainly because they told her that she had a lot of energy and was always hopping around. Her second fact is that she was a very happy child with a naturally outgoing personality who loved to have fun, but was bored throughout school. And so her dad would talk to her about his travels in the Navy, and she was really curious about the world beyond the little town that she grew up in Indiana. Her high school sweetheart was 2 years older than her, and so her parents allowed her to marry him in her junior year, and they moved to Colorado, and then where she finished high school, and then they moved to Germany. They traveled all over Europe, but unfortunately, that marriage didn't last. All right, so third fact. She was so interested in being a career woman that she thought she had a lot of opportunities. She had a successful career earning an above average salary since 1980 in various positions in healthcare. She's been a Realtor since 2002, and she says real estate has become a profession that she has flourished in. It's given her so many fun and different opportunities. Her theme song, don't we all need a theme song? Her theme song has become Don't Stop Believin'. You get it, she says, small town girl, living in a lonely world. She took the train going anywhere. There you go. And fact number 5 is she looks at friends like spoons on a rack. And I'm not going to lie, when I first read that, I was like, okay. But stick with it. Spoons on a rack, all eclectic, different, beautiful, colorful, plain, classy, elegant, etc. She says she loves being around people and getting to know them. And that her tagline is you've got a friend in real estate. She says with her, you've got a friend forever. So let's welcome to the show my friend, Bobette Fisher. Hello and welcome to Snack Size Business, Bobette Fisher. I'm so happy to finally get you on the show.
Oh, LB, it's always a pleasure to see you.
Oh, thank you, my friend. All right, so before I jump into the 3 questions, I did want to ask you, so your high school sweetheart, so you got married very young, right? And then he was in the service, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you moved to Colorado and then to Germany.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about what that was like as a very young person.
Well, as a young person, you know, I was 17 and I thought I knew everything. And I was very confident in myself. And so it just felt normal to me. I mean, my parents had gotten married at a very young age, and they were a little concerned if they didn't allow it to happen, then other things could happen that they didn't want to have happen. So, you know, off we went on our married life to Colorado, and it was a beautiful state to live in. And I committed to my parents. I would finish high school, and I enrolled in high school and finished, and my husband did his Army stuff and I did my high school stuff, and you know, it felt normal.
So how was it being a married high school student?
Well, there was some resentment at the high school by some students that thought that I was being a little snootish, but I really wasn't. I mean, it seemed natural to me. So,
Right.
I did my studies. Actually, I probably had one of the best years in high school that I had ever had, because I buckled down, hit the books, got good grades. It was a fantastic year, but I only had to go for 6 months because I had acquired enough credits. So that was really very easy. And by the time I rolled up on that 6-month period, he had been transferred or, restationed in Germany. And as soon as I could, I went over and met him in Germany and, lived the European lifestyle. And I thought that was also cool because I was a very curious young girl and wanted to break out of my little hometown. And we lived off base in Germany on the economy. Really, really cute. As I look back on it, it was a really cute apartment on the 3rd floor of a home. And I was somewhat stranded though, because we didn't have TV during the day. We had radio all day, European radio, Army radio. But we had one car, and the only other way that I could get places was to take the bus. And I didn't speak German, but I was going to
ask you if you had any German language skills.
None. Absolutely.
Did you feel
none.
isolated?
A little bit, but I, read books and made the best of my time. I cooked. I think I cleaned every day. But there wasn't a whole lot to do, but it was.
And so you opted not to work then, or could you not work? How does that work?
Well, it was difficult to work because I would have had to work on base somewhere because I couldn't work on the economy. So I would have had to work on base somewhere. And so there weren't that many opportunities, maybe like in the PX or the laundry mat or somewhere crazy like that. But there weren't a lot of opportunities to work. So, and my husband didn't want me to work.
Gotcha.
So how cool is that?
Right. All right. Well, let me jump into our structured 3 questions, and then I'll have more questions.
Sure.
All right. So what conversation do you wish that you had had, but did not?
Oh, I wish I would have had another conversation with my grandmother on my dad's side. I loved my grandmother on my mom's side too. We were very close. We had a very close family. I was so fortunate. When I was growing up, I had loving parents. I had loving aunts and uncles on my mom's side. And it kind of turns out that I'm a lot like her. And that's either good good in some ways or maybe bad in some other people's eyes. But anyway, she was a real strong woman.
And did you not get the opportunity to spend time with her?
She lived away for the most part. I mean, my maternal grandmother lived locally, but my paternal grandmother didn't. She was in and out of our hometown, and she lived in Tucson, Arizona, and she had a lake place in Indiana, and then she retired to Deming, New Mexico. And she called me. She called me the weekend before she passed away, and I did not return the phone call.
Oh, so that's
I've kind of always had that sadness in my heart that I didn't have one more conversation with her. She wasn't particularly nice to my mother. And I did love my mother very, very much. But anyway, she was a very interesting person, worldly. She had a worldly mind, and she was a real character.
Maybe a little bit like you.
Well, maybe.
maybe a little bit. All right, question number 2. What do you love maybe the most about what you do?
Oh gosh, I love helping people with the biggest decision that they make in their portfolio. I love helping them to go through the options of what their choices can be and really come up with the best solution. So helping my clients is what I really
You're a problem solver.
Oh, I am. Yes, I think I am a problem solver.
Right? That's what it sounded like.
Yeah.
For sure.
My real specialty is relocation. And that's because I'll never be a Charlestonian, really, even though I've lived here 22 years. But that
Right,
aside.
right, exactly.
So I help business executives and people relocating to the area or outbounding, from here.
Wow, that's interesting. So you have tentacles everywhere.
I do. And I like that.
So, third and final question, and maybe this really pertains to what you do. What communication advice do you live by?
Oh, communicate often. Communicate
Okay.
often. Communicate, we have so many ways to communicate these days via,
Yes.
phone, text,
Yes.
email. We have a lot of ways to communicate. So communicate often, communicate on a broad range.
I love communicate often. I think that's really succinct, and I think it's so important. I think that, as you said, we have so many platforms that we take it for granted. And if you don't text someone for a day or 2 days or 3 days, and they're waiting to hear from you, then the mind starts to work. And do we have a deal? Is there a problem? What am I doing wrong? All of these things. So communicate often. I think that's great advice. Thank you. Okay, so let me ask you one more question on your 5 facts. So I was really amused at spoons on a spoon rack. Yes. So it's such an interesting visual. I'm curious, where did that come from?
My mom and dad traveled a lot, and when they would travel to places, they would get a spoon from wherever they were. And when I was a young child, if I was with them, we would go to wherever we were at and we would find a spoon. And we would kind of collectively decide which one we liked the best. And so someone was talking to me about friendships one time, and this goes back probably 20 years ago when I first got into real estate. And they said, "How do you view people?" And I said, "Well, people are eclectic. And I view them like that spoon rack my mom had. She had all these colorful spoons from all over the country, wherever they went." And I said, and people are like that. You have some that are real colorful. You have some that are just silver or gold, or you have some that are black or white. And, I just view people as that colorful collection of spoons that my mother had. And I love all kinds of people, and I love to hear their stories and understand where they're coming from. And I've learned that, there's 2 sides to every story.
Yes.
And you just have to be open-minded, because I don't think that there's probably a person in this world that I wouldn't find that I liked something
in
about
some
them.
capacity. Right. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for that. That's so interesting. That visual, the spoon rack, is not going to leave me. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course. I'll bet you never heard that before.
No, I never have, but it's such a great visual. It's such a great analogy that it's unforgettable. So, Bobette, thank you so much for your time and your insight and your people skills. I absolutely appreciate that.
Oh, LB, it's just always so fun to talk with you, and it's been a real pleasure for you to invite me to Snack Size Business today.
Oh, thank you, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.